Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week, Torah and Psychology post for Parshas Mikeitz and the war in Israel is going to look at nightmares. And nightmares, or sleep in general, dreams and nightmares, is something that has come up often in the psychological literature, is discussed. There's some element of controversy about it, discussion about why we dream, why we sleep, what is the function of sleep, how we produce dreams or nightmares as well, what is their purpose and function, and how do we process and understand these seemingly neurological functions, but also at the same time physiological and emotional. So we see there's a range of different aspects that go into sleeping and dreaming and nightmares. And we want to try to gain a better understanding and also try to understand how we can manage, in particular, nightmares. Because although there is a certain part of the literature that looks at sleep, quality of sleep, and dreaming as being related to certain personality characteristics, and there is, however, a certain consensus that looks at nightmares and understands the connection between nightmares and anxiety. That if a person is under a greater level is experiencing a greater level of anxiety, either if it's acute anxiety or it's chronic anxiety, it can have an influence, a negative influence on the quality of a person's sleep. And also this anxiety can then manifest in nightmares. Where nightmares is this often there's a motif of a sense of a loss of control, being unable to, there's a certain doom that is unavoidable, a sense of complete loss and surrendering to this tragedy or this terror that occurs within a nightmare. And this can be frightening in itself, but also understanding that if a person is experiencing anxiety, and this therefore increases the chances or the occurrences of nightmares, already gives an indication of how we can look at nightmares in a different way and how we can manage nightmares. Because obviously there's the psychoanalytical approach of Freud that has looked at dreams as being almost a door to understanding a person, to giving insight into a person, and using the content of dreams and the analysis of dreams to provide some sort of indication of how to get insight into a person's personality and the difficulties they are struggling, and therefore to treat it. But without going into the interpretation of dreams or trying to give an explanation, if we just look at a sense of this phenomenon and of the symptom of anxiety as being connected with nightmares, we can try to get a certain grasping over this, to grasp and get a better understanding of what are nightmares and how we can manage them. And in this week's parasha as well, Paro has a dream and he wakes up from the dream, and the pasuk says that he was disturbed, v'tipa'em rucho, that his spirit was disturbed by this dream. And Rashi says, even more, it says, mekashkesh betocho kepa'amon, that his internal distress was shaking around and shaking like a bell, which sounds as the connotations of anxiety, both as a result of having this nightmare, but perhaps also can relate to the state that Paro was in. The state of anxiety can explain to a certain extent why he was having these nightmares, these disturbing dreams. That anxiety is connected. There is a close connection between anxiety and nightmares. And certainly when he woke up, he was highly disturbed and affected by the nightmare that he had. And what's interesting is that the pasuk says that he asked his advisors, the magicians, he sought their advice, and they gave different explanations. They gave different psychoanalytical interpretations of the dream that he had, but it didn't help him. He wasn't reassured. And this is something that we can say, that although there is a place for psychoanalytical interpretation, for interpretations of dreams, it doesn't necessarily reassure a person. It doesn't necessarily calm a person down. And what Paro was experiencing was anxiety which led to having a nightmare, which caused this disturbance of sleep, this anxiety of experiencing this disturbing nightmare. And if what would be beneficial, certainly on a general level, is to manage this anxiety. What's discussed in the literature is this idea of sleep hygiene. That if a person goes through a stage of preparation before sleep, that they prepare themselves in the correct way, in an effective way, before sleep, it can have a positive influence on the quality of a person's sleep. So this could be making sure that they're ready to go to sleep at a certain time, before that having had a meal at the right time for it to digest properly, maybe doing a little bit of exercise, having a shower, reading a book, going into your bedroom, there being the appropriate lighting and environment which is conducive to sleep. And this can all help a person to feel calmer, to feel more stable, whether it's because they had a stressful or an anxious a day where they felt anxious, or whether they suffer from chronic anxiety. Going through this preparatory stage where they're able to go into sleep, enter into sleep in a more calm and controlled manner, where they feel more relaxed, will help them hopefully to have a positive influence on their sleep and reduce the potential or the risk of having nightmares. And so too, therefore, we see with Parah that he wasn't reassured by all these interpretations. What he was suffering from was anxiety. It was v'tipa'em rucho, mikashket b'tocho. His inside, internally, this internal distress that needed to be managed, that needed to be treated. And certainly at the moment with the current war in Israel, it's certainly understandable and expected that both young and old, children and adults, will be affected, and it will affect the anxiety they're experiencing at the moment will affect their sleep. Whether it's with younger children that they aren't able to sleep or don't want to sleep in their own bedroom, seeking reassurance and comfort from their parents, or sleeping in their parents' bed, or whether it's adults where they're not having good quality sleep, perhaps even suffering from insomnia, or they are also having nightmares in their sleep. This is a normal response to an abnormal situation. This is the way that we're able to, in a sense, cope and respond to this distress and anxiety that we are experiencing at the moment. But if we are able to manage this level of anxiety, hopefully it will have a positive benefit, and you'll be able to create a higher quality of sleep. And as we know, sleep is it's an integral ingredient for a person to be able to sleep well and feel healthier and have a greater level of well-being. So hopefully this is the message that we can take out in terms of managing anxiety and trying to reduce the frequency or the intensity of our dreams and our nightmares. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.